everybody, I'm Tim Ward and welcome back to Garden Sense. Well, folks, it's the end of April now and the emails are coming fast and furious. I had a bunch to comb through over the weekend, but I did select 3 that we're going to review here today. So buckle up, everybody. Let's jump right in. The first question is from Chris. Hey, Tim. So I completed the second mowing of the season yesterday, then put down some Kickstart, and then put down some Weed Beater Ultra right after that. It was dark when I got done with that application. The problem is we had some rain early this morning, and it is supposed to rain later this morning. Does that make the Weed Beater application ineffective? It was probably on the ground for maybe 10 hours before the rain came. So here's my concern. Because you put down Weed Beater Ultra and you finished making the application at night, it was dark and therefore it was colder. Any moisture in the air has now settled onto the grass, starting to create that dew, and I frankly just don't know if it would have had time to dry. Now, any weed killer, once it dries, it's going to be effective, and it's usually rain safe within a couple of hours after drying. I'm not sure that you had enough time, but sadly, the only way to know for sure is to actually wait it out. Over the course of the next 7 to 10 days, just walk out in your yard and see if any of the weeds that you applied it to are starting to turn brown, starting to yellow, or dying altogether. If you start to see that reaction, then you're good to go. However, my concern is that it didn't have time to dry and therefore the rain did wash it away. So if in the next 7 to 10 days you do not see any type of die-off or browning of the weeds, it probably didn't take and you're going to need to put down another application. And that's okay. Just read the label on the Weed Beater Ultra and see when you're allowed to put down your next application. Most weed killers allow you to put down multiple applications over the course of the spring and summer. You just want to make sure you don't do it too soon. That could cause damage to the lawn. So wait it out, see what happens in the next 7 to 10 days, and then from that point you just need to make your own decision as to whether or not you think you need to put down another application or if you think you're good to go. The next question is from Bill. Hi Tim, can I use Preen in my beds with a lot of perennials without danger of damaging the perennials? I have a large area of Shasta Daisies that always has weeds popping up during the summer. Can I spread Preen over the new Shasta sprouts? So I don't use Preen in my garden beds. I typically rely on Gallery or Dimension. However, the effects of Preen are really the same. The only concern that I would have with putting it down now is just how young those Shasta Daisies are. I know you said they've sprouted and that means they've broken through the soil surface, but if any of the Preen granules actually get and sit on those sprouts, it could actually damage them. So what I would actually recommend is just wait. I would just wait until they are a little bit more mature and then you could go ahead and put Preen around it because again, the risk of damaging those plants is going to subside the older and more mature the plant gets. So can you put it down? Absolutely. I would just wait. And at this weather, it could be a couple of days, maybe a week or 2 for them to mature a little bit more, then put down the Preen, and you should be good to go. The last question for today is from Keith. Tim, my yard is about 20 years old, and I've always used the Turf Trust starter formula. I do like the results. Should I change over to the Turf Trust lawn maintenance because of the age of my yard, or continue with the starter? What's the difference? So we get this question a lot, and that's why I threw it in for this week's video podcast. Here's the thing. You don't have a 20-year-old lawn. Yes, it was put in 20 years ago, but you have had that grass die off, drop seeds, and new seeds form many times over the course of the last 20 years. So believe it or not, the maturity of the lawn doesn't really matter in terms of using the maintenance or the starter, unless, of course, you're the government and you are restricting the use of the starter formula in your particular area. So here's what I mean by that. Years ago, when Turf Trust was first founded, there was one formulation. It was the 24-2-12 fertilizer formulation, which is now called the starter formulation. Why is that? Well, that was the flagship product and it sold really, really well. And then the state of Maryland actually started to make some changes in terms of when they would allow the phosphorus found in fertilizers to be utilized. In this case, the phosphorus is the 2 in the 24-212. Now, what the state basically said was, hey, unless you are seeding or overseeding your lawn, putting down sod, something along the lines of growing new grass, you cannot use phosphorus. So if you're going to go ahead and seed or sod, you can go ahead and use that 24-212. But if you have a lawn where you are not overseeding and you're just looking to fertilize, you need to use a phosphate-free fertilizer, which is where the maintenance lawn fertilizer came to be. That's a 24-012. Now, I live in an area where they don't have those restrictions, and so I use the 24-212 all the time. I use it for all 4 applications on my lawn. I don't use anything else. So if you're happy with the results of the 24-212, the starter formula, I would not change. There's really no difference except the 2% phosphorus. If you look at the ingredients on the back of the bag, they are identical with the exception to the phosphorus. So if you're happy with the starter formula, that's what you need to keep using. In my personal opinion, that is a better formula because it contains that phosphorus, and I wouldn't worry about using the maintenance. All right, everybody, just a couple final thoughts before we wrap up this week's video podcast. As a reminder, you want to make sure that you are feeding your lawn. So if you haven't fertilized your grass yet, you need to head over to rosensonline.com and pick up a couple of bags of Turf Trust. Again, we recommend the Turf Trust Professional Starter Formula. However, if you live in an area that has phosphorus restrictions, you can obviously use the maintenance formulation, which is the 24-012. But in either case, you need to fertilize your grass. So if you didn't do it back in March or in early April, you need to make sure that you get it down now, and then we can just adjust your feeding schedule as the rest of the year progresses. Folks, I want to remind everyone that Kickstart is also a very vital product to all of your plants. So whether it's veggie plants that you're going to put in sometime here in the upcoming month, it's your flowers, it's your grass, it's your trees, it's your shrubs, even your indoor plants, Kickstart is really, really important because it strengthens the root system, allows that root system to take in more nutrition that we're putting down. So again, it's a really, really vital product, very, very flexible in terms of when and how you use it, and obviously it's available over at rosensonline.com. Now, given the fact that we're really starting to experience some days that are pretty hot, we're still getting some rain depending on where you live, this is a recipe that is ripe for lawn diseases. Now, we offer a couple of lawn disease products over at rosensonline.com, but we really recommend the Bio-Advanced Fungus Control for Lawns. This is a multi-purpose fungicide. You put it down on your lawn and it's going to take care of a variety of diseases that your lawn may get. Again, this is something that we would use on my lawn. It's a very effective product. So if you are struggling or battling any type of disease, or if you're just looking to prevent a lawn disease, then go ahead and head over to Rosens Online and pick up some fungus control for lawns. Folks, finally, I also want to remind you that you should be using Garden Trust on any of your plants that flower. So if it's trees or shrubs, you want to use Garden Trust if it is a plant that produces flowers. Same thing when you're putting in your gardens. Make sure that you're using Garden Trust because it's formulated in a way that's going to help blooms, it's going to help fruit develop, and it's really going to strengthen those types of plants that come from bulbs. Folks, as always, I just want to thank you for the time that you gave us today. It really does mean a lot. If you have questions about your lawn or your gardens, make sure you send them directly to me, Tim, at rosensonline.com. I will do my best to get back to you. We are in a time of year where those emails are coming fast and furious every single day. So give me a couple of days before you follow back up. I promise that if I do receive your email, you are going to get a response from me. I hope you folks have an amazing rest of the week. God bless.